Alright, this one might be a little hard for me to keep in the camera because it is tiny. Hi, this is Misha, and today we're going to look at the Gazelle. This is the AH-1 model, British military. This is one produced under license in the UK by Westland. And this is an example from the first Gulf War, 1991. And this is a tiny little helicopter. Just for comparison, I brought out the Lynx, which operated alongside the Gazelle. And the Lynx itself is not a huge helicopter, but compared to the Gazelle it is. And this model is a new brand I've been trying out, Aviation72. They do a few interesting aircraft. They're kind of a successor to Witty. So kind of a caveat emptor, if you buy them, just know what you're getting. But when they do things, one thing nice about, they do a lot of metal, even in a small little aircraft like this. Most all of it is metal, including the tail, the skids, and so on. And these actually come pre-assembled. Most of your corgis and whatnot, you'd have to install the rotor blades, but this is so small that it'll even fit in the box with the blades on. And like the Puma, this was developed in France and assembled under license in the UK. And it really dates back to a French government, a French military army requirement for a new light observation helicopter from the mid-60s. Well, SUD Aviation started work in '66, and they enlarged it a bit to more of a light transport size. It could still be used as a recon. And they had a couple of reasons for doing this. One was to make it more versatile, so it could be adapted for different roles, not just an observational chopper. And this led to the idea that it would have more interest to export customers, which it did. Actually, as early as February of 1967, the British government was interested and actually would sign an agreement with SUD, Westland and SUD would, to produce up to 292 of these in the UK using some French parts, but with final assembly and many other parts made in Britain at Westland. This would also be the same agreement that had the Puma, where Britain agreed to 48 of those. So a pretty good deal, 340 helicopters agreed with SUD. A little later that year, the first test flight of the prototype, the SA-340, flew. And one thing you'll notice about this chopper is it has a very unique tail. It does not have a traditional rotor. It is internal, kind of an internal little fan design. This is a Finistron tail, and the original prototype that flew didn't have it. It had the conventional tail from some earlier, the Alouette, I believe, design that SUD had made. But in '68, they would have this tail ready to go, and so a second prototype, the SA-341 model from that company, would fly. And very quickly, the aircraft would be put into production. The first production model would fly in 1971, and this would enter French service in 73, and the first British ones would go into service in 74 and be declared fully operational as a squadron a short time later. Some of this aircraft's duties included artillery spotting, reconnaissance, light personnel or troop transport, medical evacuation, and of course as a attack aircraft. It could hold 5 people, 1 pilot and 4 passengers, or it can be fitted with rocket pods or tow missiles or 20mm cannon or 2 7.62 NATO machine guns. It could also carry extra fuel instead, or it could lift about 1,300 pounds underneath, or carry about 1,100 pounds, give or take, cargo in the back seat. It was a fast helicopter for its day. It was the fastest light helicopter. It could get up to nearly 200 miles per hour and cruise at about 180. And it had a very high ceiling of almost 16,000 feet. And a lot of this had to do with this tail. It helped with speed, and while it did consume more power during takeoff and landing, when at cruising speed it consumed less, therefore less fuel. It was also far less vulnerable to rockets, missiles, fire. It's just a more protected tail system. So it had many advantages. They also designed this bird to be very long-lived. The rotors, for example, were designed to have a long service life. Other components were designed to be easy to access for maintenance or replacement. The idea was it was a durable, reliable, kind of almost forget about it type helicopter, as much as any helicopter can be considered that, at least. So some of its earliest uses were in Northern Ireland, when in 1978 the first of these in British service was shot down by the IRA. Then, of course, these were used in 1982 during the Falklands War. They were operated off of Royal Navy vessels. That's why I brought out the Navy links over here. They served together. The Gazelles were fitted with rockets and additional armor, as well as some other naval gear, such as flotation devices in some cases. These were very much used by the Royal Army, the Marines, and Navy, and they did take casualties in that war, but they were also very effective little light support aircraft. In fact, they were fitted with aiming system designed specifically to work with the Lynx, kind of a Gazelle specific targeting system, and so these two helicopters could work in tandem. Not in the same way, but it kind of reminds me of the hunter-killer roles, situations that U.S. Cobras and OH-6s conducted in Vietnam. Kind of that, having a small, nimble bird to work as a scout, a ferret, and then a more heavily armed version to come in with the big guns. Similar idea, kind of. Not really, but sort of. The Army initially ordered 142 with a planned total service of 250 of these, and so Westland would continue to manufacture them, as would SUD, at that point, Aérospatiale in France. These would be deployed in 1991 during the first Gulf War, which this one's in a camo scheme of. They would also be deployed in Kosovo in 1999, again in 2001 in Afghanistan, and of course 2003 during the Second Iraq War, the invasion of Iraq. Production would end in 1996 when, at the time, Aérospatiale turned into Eurocopter in the 90s, and this would start making the Tiger, and of course Westland to move on to other aircraft. But this plane, this bird, is still very much in service today. Originally it was planned to be retired by 2012, then that was extended to 2018, and just a year or two ago that the service life was extended again until at least 2025, meaning it will have been in British service for a half a century. What makes this helicopter so endearing and useful is that, as I said, it is easy to work on. The parts have a long service life. Maintenance is quite light. Also, the various wars showed that it wasn't as susceptible to dust, heat, and high altitudes as other aircraft. It was just more ready to go. Its availability rating was quite high in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And because it was designed by SUD as a multi-role, multi-mission capable chopper, it's very easy to outfit it as a gunship or an anti-tank, anti-armor chopper, search and rescue, reconnaissance, and again, a light transport. I mean, as fast as it is and as small as it can land anywhere, so if you need to get 2 or 3 VIPs somewhere quick, it works. Or if you just need to drop off 4 special forces, this is a relatively quiet and unassuming helicopter. Even this, the Lynx, which can hold about 10 troops, so more than double, it is quite a bit bigger. And of course, even larger choppers like the Sea King, the Commando, which can carry nearly 30 troops, but they're quite a bit bigger. So it still has a role, and that's why it's still in use today. It's not really one I planned to get, but this one came up, and I thought, what the hell, I'll give Aviation72 a try. So I bought this. I also bought their Javelin to try one plane and one helicopter. And I have to admit, I think they did a pretty good job. It has a good solid feeling. Again, it's all metal for the most part. I think even the tail, the horizontals are. Yeah. The vertical is plastic, but the horizontals and the fuselage here are all metal. And since I had pretty much all the other modern British helicopters, why the hell not? These aren't super expensive, about 40, 50 bucks. The stand is kind of cheap. But one thing I do like how they did, it is plastic and it does just plug in, but the stem doesn't just plug into the base, it actually keys in. So you put it in and you pop it forward, so it actually fits very tight. Now that said, I could see it breaking quite easily too if you stepped on it or something. But it is, they do come with the stand. And of course the rotors and all that rotate. It's a good thing for rotors to do, right? Rotate. Kind of what they're for. It's 3-bladed, of course. But not bad for what it is. Better than expected. It's just the fact that it's such a tiny helicopter. If you're doing 1/72 scale, that's pretty much what you're going to be at. Alrighty, folks. I think that's about all I can ramble on about this little guy. If you have any questions or comments, please do list them below. And if you haven't checked out my other videos on British choppers or the Eurocopter, I do have those. Most of my other Brit choppers are from Corgi, and of course my Eurocopter is from Air Force One. I think they're about the only folks to do one at the moment, besides like maybe Americum. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions, please post them below. If you could, like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. I'll catch you very soon next time.